Welcome back to AI Podcaster, and thanks for tuning in to another deep dive with me.
It's great to be here.
Today we're diving into a topic that's generating a lot of buzz right now, AI and art.
Yeah, algorithmic creativity.
Precisely, algorithmic creativity.
It seems like AI is everywhere these days, but
It
this
is.
is one area where things get really interesting.
It does. I mean, it really challenges our assumptions about what it means to be creative.
Right, like, can a machine really be creative? What does that even look like?
Yeah, those are some of the big questions we're going to be exploring today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really fascinating area to think about.
So maybe a good place to start would be to, like, define what we even mean by algorithmic creativity.
Sure, so in a nutshell, it's basically using AI systems to generate creative outputs.
Like paintings and music.
Exactly. Paintings, music, poetry, even screenplays, you name it.
It's wild.
Yeah.
And how does it actually work? How do these systems actually create stuff?
Well, it all starts with data. Massive amounts of data.
Okay, so like feeding the AI a whole library full of art and literature.
Pretty much, yeah. These systems analyze huge data sets of existing creative works, looking for patterns.
Right.
And then, based on those patterns, they try to generate something new.
Nice.
And there are a few key techniques that are really driving this field forward.
What are some of those?
Well, one of the most talked about is something called generative adversarial networks, or GANs for short.
GANs. I've heard that term. I'm not going to lie, it sounds a little intimidating.
It does sound kind of complex, but the basic idea is actually pretty intuitive.
Okay.
So you have two neural networks working together, kind of like two parts of the AI's brain.
Right.
One network is the creator. It generates the output, whatever it might be.
Okay.
And the other network is the critic.
I see.
And it's constantly evaluating the output, comparing it to the data it's been trained on.
So it's like having a built-in art critic pushing the AI to do better.
Exactly. The creator is trying to fool the critic. And the critic is getting more and more sophisticated at spotting fakes.
Wow.
And through this back and forth, the AI as a whole learns to generate output that's not only novel, but also aesthetically pleasing.
That's amazing. So it's really learning. It's not just copying. It's like coming up with its own stuff.
Exactly. It's really pushing the boundaries.
Incredible. So what about other techniques? What else is out there?
Well, another really important one is natural language processing, or NLP.
NLP. Okay, I feel like I've heard that one too.
You probably have. It's how AI understands and generates human language.
So this is how we're getting AI writing poems and screenplays.
That's right. NLP allows AI to analyze text, figure out the patterns of language and storytelling,
I see.
and then use that to create new content. It's pretty amazing stuff.
It really is. It makes you wonder what the future holds for writers and artists.
It does. Will AI become a collaborator?
A competitor?
Or both?
Yeah.
Those are some of the big questions.
Good questions indeed.
And before we dive too deep into that, there's one more technique we should touch on. Reinforcement learning.
Okay, reinforcement learning. How did that fit into all of this?
Well, it's all about trial and error.
Oh, interesting.
The AI learns by doing, it gets feedback on its output, and then adjusts its approach based on that feedback.
So like if it creates something good, it gets a virtual high five, and if it misses the mark, it's back to the drawing board.
That's a great way to put it.
Haha, I try.
So through this process of trial and error and getting feedback, the AI gets better and better at creating things that meet certain criteria.
That's really fascinating. It's like it developing its own sense of taste, in a way.
In a way, yeah, it's really learning what works and what doesn't.
But this whole idea of AI creating raises a lot of questions for me.
Sure, like what?
Well, like, can we really call it art if there's no human consciousness behind it? You know, if it's just algorithms crunching data, is it really expressing anything meaningful?
Those are some really deep questions you're getting at that gets to the heart of the debate around algorithmic creativity.
It does, doesn't it?
I mean, some people argue that real art requires human experience, right? Human intention.
Human emotion.
Exactly. And they say that AI, no matter how smart it gets,
Right.
is still just a tool mimicking the patterns it's learned without really understanding the meaning behind it.
Yeah, it's like, can an AI really feel the joy of painting a sunset or the heartache of composing a sad song? I don't know.
Right, that's the question, isn't it?
But then there's the other side of the argument, too.
There is.
The people who say that maybe we're being too narrow-minded
Interesting.
about what art can be.
I see, yeah.
Like, what if an AI can create something truly original and beautiful?
Yeah.
Something that moves us emotionally. Why shouldn't we consider that art?
That's a great point. It challenges us to rethink our assumptions about what it means to create.
It's like, maybe the source of the creativity doesn't matter as much as the impact it has.
Right, the emotional response it evokes.
Yeah, exactly.
And some people even go further
Yeah.
and say that AI could actually push the boundaries of human creativity
Wow, how so?
by inspiring us to think in new ways,
Okay.
to explore new artistic territories that we might not have discovered on our own.
So it's not about AI replacing human artists,
Right.
but about humans and AI working together.
Exactly. A partnership.
That's a really cool way to think about it.
I think so too.
And as AI keeps getting more advanced,
Yeah,
it's only going to get more interesting and more complex.
absolutely. It's going to raise even more questions.
Yeah, like what's the future of art going to look like?
Right. Will we see a world where AI-generated art is everywhere?
Will human artists adapt and find new ways to work with these systems?
Those are all questions we're going to have to figure out as a society.
It's a pretty exciting time to be alive. And it's a little bit scary, too.
It is a lot of unknowns, but I think that's part of what makes it so fascinating.
For sure. So what's the next chapter in this story of AI and art? What are you most excited about?
It really is mind-blowing when you think about the possibilities.
Yeah, it feels like we've only scratched the surface.
Exactly. And I think one of the most exciting things about this is it forces us to think about what it means to be human.
It does what it means to be creative.
Right. Like, where does inspiration come from?
What's the difference between inspiration and just imitation?
These are big questions philosophers have been asking for centuries.
Yeah.
But AI is making us think about them in a whole new way.
And it's not just theoretical anymore either.
No, not at all.
We're already seeing how AI is impacting the real world,
Yeah, absolutely.
like in music.
Mm-hmm.
AI is composing soundtracks, creating new instruments, even making personalized playlists.
And in the visual arts, you have AI algorithms creating incredibly realistic images,
Designing logos.
assisting with animation.
It's amazing how fast this technology is evolving.
It really is. And as AI gets more sophisticated,
Right.
I think it's going to keep changing the creative landscape in ways we can't even imagine.
So where do we go from here? What's the next chapter in this story?
Well, one thing I'm really interested in is seeing how AI develops in terms of understanding human emotions.
That's a great point.
Like, imagine an AI that could actually collaborate with a human artist on an emotional level,
Wow.
helping them to express their feelings and ideas in ways they never could before.
That would be incredible, like a true artistic partnership.
Exactly. And I think as AI becomes more integrated into our lives, we're going to see more and more of this human-AI collaboration.
I'm really excited to see what the future holds. It feels like we're on the edge of something really special.
I agree. A new era of creativity where the lines between human and machine are blurred.
And maybe someday we'll look back and see this as the start of a whole new renaissance.
That's a beautiful thought.
It is. Well, on that note, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into algorithmic creativity.
It's been my pleasure.
And to all of you listening out there,
Thanks for tuning in.
if you're interested in learning more, we've got some great resources in the show notes.
Check them out. There's a whole world of AI art out there to explore.
So stay curious and keep an open mind.
And who knows, maybe you'll be the one to create the next masterpiece with the help of AI.
That's a great point. Thanks again for listening to AI Podcaster.
See you next time.
We'll be back with another deep dive into the world of artificial intelligence.